Hello everyone. This video is going to be quite a somber one. An amazing disability advocate, Alice Wong, has passed away at age 51 this Friday, November 14th. She was way more than just a disability advocate. She was a pillar in the disability community. She worked with so many disabled creators and activists. I may have never known her personally, but she has helped many disabled people like me with her words. Her book, Disability Visibility, is the first book I always recommend to people who want to understand life as a disabled person more. As disabled people, we don't get a lot of people who we can look up to in media. We have to go out of our way to find ourselves. That is, if the media even exists with our disability. Alice Wong made sure disabled people could feel seen with her constant activism, campaigns, books, and she even helped other disabled people tell their stories via podcast and helping others get published. I can't express my gratitude enough for her, so I wanted to extend well wishes to her family and friends, plus the entire disabled community who mourn her. We will never be able to forget the things she has done for the disabled community. I want to highlight all her contributions in this video so we can all know her impacts. It's important to know in her memoir, Year of the Tiger, Life of an Activist, she doesn't want to be seen as warm and inspirational to able-bodied people. So I'm going to try to be very careful with my words to honor her wishes and not portray her as such. I hope I do not come off as performative, as I have followed her for a long time, and my copy of Disability Visibility is in tatters for how much I've annotated it. I really admire her, and I can't recommend her works enough, not just her books, but her interviews and podcasts. Hence why I'm talking about her so more people know her contributions. Alice Wong was born March 27th, 1974 in Indiana, born from two Chinese immigrants. She was born with spinal muscular atrophy, a genetic neuromuscular disorder that causes certain muscles to become weak and degenerate. She stopped walking around age 7. She speaks about her escape in her memoir being nerd culture, like writing, books, TV, and Saturday cartoons. A quote from her memoir that I resonated with a lot because my interests as a disabled person are very similar. Who are nerds if not those left out, ridiculed, and neglected, and undervalued by the dominant society? And that really just stuck with me. Alice Wong tried to attend her dream school, Earlham College, a private school in Indiana. Access to disability services there were very limited or impossible to get, and the school had only one accessible bathroom. She had to drop out her first year due to her health and had to take a year off. Cuts to her Medicaid were made, which made returning impossible. She had to make the unfortunate choice to commute to Indiana University, not her dream school. She did get to go to UC San Francisco for her graduate degree, but the dorm was a makeshift dorm in the garage with no windows in order to accommodate her. She was a trailblazer, being the first disabled student to live on campus at UC San Fran. Her impacts there are still seen today in the elevators, which now have horizontal and vertical elevator buttons so wheelchair users are able to access all floors. Of course, attending school as the first disabled person staying in the dorms was still extremely difficult. She did not graduate with a PhD, but still was able to get her master's in medical sociology in 2004, which is insanely impressive. I say this as a disabled person who has dropped out of college several times. She ended up working as a staff researcher at the same school for 10 plus years. During this time, she conducted research and trainings about personal care services that help those with disabilities live in the community rather than institutional settings. While she continued as a staff researcher at UCSF, she was vice chair of Chancellor's Advisory Committee on Disabled Issues at UCSF. In 2013, President Obama appointed Alice Wong to the National Council on Disability, an independent federal agency that advises the U.S. government on policies, programs, and practices that affect people with disabilities. She worked with them until 2015. 2015 was actually when she was invited to the White House by President Obama due to her work on the council during the 25th anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act, more commonly known by its acronym, the ADA. In her memoir, she discussed how she had to decline due to her health and airplanes being inaccessible. And I hate to say this, but airplanes are still inaccessible. You're lucky if your wheelchair is okay after being on an airplane. Most of them get destroyed there. But that's besides the point. However, they were able to accommodate her, and she could attend using a Beam Pro, which allows a person to stream live with a webcam and move around like a robot. Ever the trailblazer she was, the first person ever in the White House to use a device like that. In 2014, she created a partnership with StoryCorps. They tell people's stories verbally. It's a national nonprofit. In her memoir, she retells the story of how she was already a fan of StoryCorps and brought up the idea to them by asking if they've ever worked with disabled storytellers. This is how she began working with them in 2014, when she founded the Disability Visibility Project through them, also known as DVP. It was dedicated to preserving and sharing stories of disabled people through interviews, archived at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. DVP started due to the anger of lack of representation of disability in history, media, and pop culture. She talks about how all this anger that comes with being disabled is what pushed her to be an advocate. This is very relatable as a disabled person online. Every day you face microaggressions or just straight out aggressions. And outside you face a world inaccessible to you. You're bound to get angry, and if you're not angry, you aren't living. She talks about accidentally becoming an advocate. A quote from her is, "I do think that as a person born with a disability, I've always been an activist. Whether I wanted to be or not, just for the fact I'm living and existing in a non-disabled world." This interview with Longmore Institute director Catherine Kudlik is when she said this. The DVP led Alice Wong to things like blogs, podcasts, series of books, television shows, feature films, and documentaries. She was always very active on Twitter, raising awareness through many means like hashtags, graphics, resharing, shouting out other activists, and writing. She helped many tags become successful, like hashtag Criplet, a series of discussion with novelist Nicola Griffith. Hashtag Crip the Vote, a hashtag that promotes political participation from disabled people. Hashtag Access to Love, a campaign that frames accessibility as an act of love rather than a burden. Not only was she a big part of the disability advocacy community, she was a part of advocacy groups for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. She is a board member of 18 Million Rising, an advocacy group that promotes civic engagement for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Her works have been published in many different media outlets. She helped disabled people tell their stories via 2 books which she has edited and helped publish. The books were published in 2020 and 2021. The first book is under the name Disability Visibility, First-Person Stories from the 21st Century, and was published in 2020. The second book was a revised version for young adult readers under the name Disability Visibility, Adapted for Young Adults, 17 First-Person Stories. During this time, she was busy also advocating for COVID-19 vaccinations for disabled people at risk, because at the time it was nearly impossible unless you were 65 years or older. She even went as far as calling out those in powers, like Governor Gavin Newsom. Speaking of, I learned this from her memoir and her life experiences, past essays, works, and interviews. The book was published in 2022 under the name Tiger, An Activist Life. Most recently, she edited another book in 2024 featuring essays from the disabled community called Disabled Intimacies, Essays on Love, Care, and Desire. I am grateful she was recognized for all her hard work. In 2020, Time recognized Alice Wong as one of 16 notable persons fighting for equality in America. British Vogue featured her on its September cover under the theme, The Faces of Hope. She was named by the Ford Foundation and Andrew W. Mellon as a Disability Future Fellows. She has gained several awards for her advocacy work, such as Martin Luther King Jr. Award 2007 and the first ever Chancellor's Disability Service Award in 2011 from UCSF, the Beacon Award from the San Francisco Mayor's Disability Council in 2010, the Paul G. Hearn Leadership Award in 2016 from the American Association of People with Disabilities for her work with Disability Visibility Project, and the Indiana University Bicentennial Medal in 2020. She has obviously had a huge impact in the disability community. I hope we can all remember her and all she's done for the community. This is such a huge loss for everyone in the disability circle, but I hope we can remember her words as she wrote in her memoir. Instead of flowers, donations can be made to your local animal shelter, food bank, library, or mutual aid collective. Enjoy all of Alice's good shit, and may you create some good shit as well. Of course, take the time to process this loss. Try to remember to continue to be your disabled, authentic self. Share your story. We must continue. I'll leave you with her recent parting post on Instagram she had prepared in case of circumstances like this, as she was aware of what could happen due to her illness. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Here's the final piece, as I know Alice Wong really admired cats and tigers, so I added those to the piece. I really hope you learned something, and remember to stay your authentic self, stay weird, stay you. Thank you for watching. Bye.